Kamen Rider W, the season that started a new era of Kamen Rider, Heisei Phase 2, and its influence is felt all throughout this era. Hell, it even bled over into Reiwa, but that's for another time. As such, its popularity within the fandom is immense. Not as much as seasons like Den-O or Gaim, but it is still considered one of the best seasons out there. Which was why I decided to check it out after Den-O, and while I liked Den-O, some parts of it were disappointing to me, so I was hoping the season would live up to the hype, and well, you already know the answer to that query. Before we talk about that though, what is this season about? Well, the concept intrigued me quite heavily. A detective solving mysteries in the windy city of Futo. And said detective works alongside a companion that can look up all information in the world at any point in time. During this, an outbreak of Gaia memory occur. Gaia memories are special USB keys that when inserted into your body can give you immense power, or do any kind of bizarre thing like make anyone turn old or get them to fall asleep so you can evade their dreams. It's up to the two detectives and their annoying boss to solve the mysteries behind who is selling all these Gaia memories to the public. The two detectives use their own Gaia memories in a special belt that can fuse them together to make Kamen Rider W. This idea was not yet seen in Kamen Rider, although any big tokusatsu fan knows this was inspired by Kikaider, who funnily enough we talked about thanks to his bizarre tie-in with Gaim. Now with such cool concepts for this season and a lot riding on it being successful after the previous season got shit-canned early, did it live up to the expectations? Well, it turned out massively successful and helped establish this next era of Kamen Rider, which focused on specific kinds of gimmicks to sell toys. Now at first glance the merch aspect is something I would scoff at, but overall it wasn't all that bad as the shows after this point, whether good or bad, wasn't because of the toys, and it did lead them to making some really sick designs for this era. While I still think the best suit designs come from O's, Devil and other Heisei Phase 2 era designs are fantastic. Super Sentai had already been playing at this aspect before this point, so it seemed natural that eventually Kamen Rider would fall in line. With all that being said, why is it that I don't like the season all that much as mentioned in the last review? Well, almost every aspect of the show is massively disappointing for me, after all the hype I had going for it. Much like Den-O and O's, it takes on a 2-episode structure, even more fitting here. And much like the other two, doesn't have too much story going on for it. Thankfully, what story it does have isn't pushed into the last couple of episodes like Den-O, but for what is there, well, I'll get into it later. First, I'll talk about an aspect of the show I actually like, the OST and the suit designs. With this kind of show, I easily expected a very jazzy soundtrack, and yeah, it did just that. I honestly really like the soundtrack a lot. Hell, it's more varied than O's as it does tackle more genres with the music. Finger on the Trigger is quite a catchy song, Cyclone Effect is a fun time overall, Leave All Behind is my favorite song of the bunch, a great song for a character I'll get into later, because I have a lot to say there. The opening is also very catchy. Double BX Double Boiled Extreme is an opening that encapsulates everything the season is about. The mysteries of the city waiting to be uncovered by the duo. It is ranked as my 11th favorite opening. There is a lot of stiff competition for the openings, hence why it is seemingly low on that list. For Leave All Behind, it's my 10th favorite song when ranking based on each season. For the OST overall, it is my 7th favorite OST. I just prefer 6 other seasons to it. For the suits, while I decided not to rank this, I still need to talk about it if I particularly like them. The double gimmick works wonders with the suit design. Seeing all the different combos possible, it just looks great overall. I like the grasshopper aesthetic for the rider suits, and before this point, the last time that was used as a motif was with Showa era, as other designs went with beetles or something else entirely, like Ryuki or Fives, etc., etc. So it must have felt refreshing to see Kamen Rider go back to that motif. That motif sadly would stay put for a while until 01, but that's for another time. Kamen Rider XL looks great overall as well, but not as good in my opinion. Also, I still find it weird when he turns into a motorcycle. That's just fucking creepy. Why am I spending so much time talking about the suit designs? Well, that's because this section is the only positive part of this review. Well, technically so is the final form section later, but that does technically fall under suit designs, but whatever. God, there are so many issues I have with this season. Let's start with what I consider to be the second worst part of this show. The main duo, Shotaro Hidari and Philip. This section is mainly about Shotaro, as Philip's character is too involved in the story. I like that they named the writer after the creator of Kamen Rider, Shotaro Ishinori, who sadly passed away in 1998. He didn't even get to see the revival of Kamen Rider thanks to Kuga. Besides that though, man, he has fucking nothing going for him. Sure, he's funny, but beyond that, then nothing changes about him. It sucks because there was potential for him in this season, but that's for later. His interactions with the cast are nice as well. You can see why he's known by so many people, but he just has nothing going for his character. He's a detective, nothing more. Philip by comparison is much more interesting but falls flat in a few regards, but that's for later. Here's the first main rider I actually don't like, and well, there are some I do dislike more than him, but that's for when we get to them. I'd rank him as my 8th favorite main rider. Jesus Christ, how we went from Eiji Dakota and Ryu Terui to this was a massive whiplash for me. Good lord. Before talking about the secondary writer, I just need to mention the supporting cast in this season. I do like their role in the story. Shotaro having confidants all over the city to talk to and ask questions to when he needs clues to the mystery he needs to solve. They do their role well in that regard. Although that being said, they have no other role besides that. And for the other people that do a bit more, like Gino and Makoto, well, they're just one-note jackoffs. Hey, here's the dumbass police chief and his partner that is basically a slave. That's the joke, guys. Hope you like seeing these guys in almost every episode. I do like some of the random people that Shotaro helps out during the season, but the characters aren't all that interesting. At least character interactions are fine for the most part, so at least that aspect from Deno is still around. But man, this cast is such a big downgrade from the previous season that I watched. I didn't see Decade. Then we have Akiko, Shotaro's boss. She gets her own segment. Why? Because she's the worst character in the fucking show. Jesus fucking Christ, what a waste of a character. While I do like her interactions with other characters, she has virtually no personality. She's just goofy like Shotaro and nothing else. The worst part is that the show set up something to give her more development. As we see in episode 1, her father who helped Shotaro run the detective agency was killed. When Akiko runs into Shotaro and finds out she doesn't know about her father's death, he needs to keep it from her at all costs. So naturally you'd think the show would do something with that, right? Right? Excuse me, but what the fuck? How does she know her father is dead? Shotaro didn't tell her anything. Well, guess what? They relegated this entire part of her character into a fucking movie. Why? What pinhead decided this was a good idea? Sure, this character has nothing going on for her in the show besides this, so let's just put it into a movie. Because fuck you. What's worse is how amazing that movie was. Granted, the double movies are fucking great overall. Can't wait until I can review them for you when I croak. They could have easily put this in the show. Hell, here's a scenario I came up with. She wonders to herself why Shotaro seems to not want to talk about her father. She decides to do some digging without him knowing. She'd end up finding out about her father's death, and heartbroken by both this revelation and Shotaro not telling her this, she ends up getting tricked into using a Gaia memory and becoming a dopant. The monsters you turn into when using a Gaia memory. After Shotaro takes care of it and finds her to be the dopant, he tells her why he couldn't tell her and vows to protect her like her father had done before. Not only would this help out Akiko's character, but Shotaro's as well. But nope, stuck to an amazing movie instead. Ah, good lord. Axel! Shin! Axel! Now for the secondary writer of the show. He definitely fares better than Shotaro overall. He starts off like a complete deckhead towards Shotaro, like a normal secondary writer would, solely out for revenge over the dopant who killed his family, and much like most other asshole secondary writers, eventually mellows out and works together with Shotaro to help take down the people selling Gaia memories. Once he's able to kill the man that killed his family, he kind of just doesn't do anything else. He stays around to help out and admittedly has some funny scenes with the others. Nothing all that special about him overall, he's kind of just there. He's ranked as my 8th favorite secondary writer. Oh boy, the story. Like I mentioned before, not much story here, but there are quite a lot of things to say regardless. As Double fights off a random dopant, they suddenly run into a strong dopant named Nasuka. This man named Kiriko Sudo is married to a girl named Saiko Sonozaki, who is part of the prestigious Sonozaki family, who secretly sell Gaia memory to the public for their own motives that will be explained later. We also learn that for some reason, Philip seems to have a connection with a girl named Wakana Sonozaki, who runs a radio show that everyone in the town loves. During a fight with the arms dopant, Philip ends up separated from Shotaro and runs into Saiko, who calls him Raito. As she fails to get Philip on her side, she transforms into her dopant form, who was the one from Begins Night, the night Shotaro and Philip first met and transformed into Double, and was also the one responsible for Akiko's father's death. As Philip is about to get hurt and captured, he's rescued by a Gaia memory. There are specific ones that can move around but are never really explained, they're just there. This memory can be used as Double, but only Philip can use it, and it causes him to go berserk. He is then able to find Shotaro and use his form to beat the arms dopant. Then in a comedic scene of both Shotaro and Kiriko getting shaved by a barber without them recognizing each other, they attempt to have a fight outside until the barber asks Shotaro to find his daughter. As Shotaro finds her, he finds out she and some of her friends have Gaia memory. although this confuses Kiriko, as he doesn't sell Gaia memories to children. As Shotaro is able to handle Kiriko, he lets him go to prove himself to be a noble man, as he helped create the mascot of Futo. As Kiriko goes to find out why this Gaia memory was sold to children, Ryubei, the head of the family, let it happen since he wants to see the extent of its power. As Kiriko is enraged, he falls over in pain, and the extra powers from Nazca prove too much for him, and starts to slowly kill him as he was a test subject to figure out the mysteries behind this specific memory. As he escapes, he goes and helps Devil take care of the dopant. Later during the day, however, Psycho calls him to meet up with him, only to kill him for betraying the family. Then Ryu Terui, who is a police officer, goes to help Shotaro to help with finding who is behind a recent case of people being frozen to death. We find out Terui took this case as he believes it's related to how his family was killed, as he found them frozen to death. After quite the number of fucking bizarre episodes, like one with the dude who sings terribly and a creepy doll, don't ask, we see a dude by the name of Shinkuro Isaka, who had been testing out the limits of Gaia memories and helping out with modifying the Gaia drivers that the Sonozaki family uses. He's also the man who killed Terui's family. As he and Psycho worked together, they had planned to take over the Sonozaki family all by themselves. During a bizarre episode involving a dopant invading dreams, Philip is attacked by Isaka, but before the final blow, he is rescued by a weird-looking bird and he is transported to this weird place. Shroud tells him he's the key to saving the world and to abandon Shotaro before it's too late. Shroud was seen before as she was the one to give Terui the Axel Gaia memory and driver in order for him to exact his revenge on Isaka. As Shotaro takes a case with someone acquainted with Akiko's dad, suddenly Shotaro is unable to transform. As Terui saves him from being killed, Philip realizes that what Shroud meant by abandoning Shotaro was that Terui is meant to be his partner, as Terui is able to handle Gaia memories properly. After an admittedly touching scene with fantastic music, if it weren't for me just preferring to leave all behind, Nobody's Perfect would be my favorite song of this season, with Shotaro and Philip realizing that they're both perfect for each other, not in the gay way, and have to fight together despite Shotaro not being able to handle the Gaia memory's power anymore. They fight alongside each other despite Shotaro still not being able to handle the power. They start glowing, and the bird machine thing that rescued Philip before takes the both of them and fuse their souls together. With that, here is an utterly amazing final form. CycloneJokerXtreme. This design is the perfect personification of a final form, a design that is a proper evolution of the normal form, unlocked after a major struggle is powered through. This one part of the show was something I actually would like a lot. The relationship between Shotaro and Philip is great overall, and this final form shows the end of their struggle of working together and being able to stand together and fight. Plus overall, this design is just so fucking great. Nothing wrong with this final form in the slightest. I rank it as my second favorite final form. It's honestly a toss-up for number one for me. Now back to the story. Not much left to go through.
So that was a fucking lie.
After these events and a great set of episodes of the Kiriko sister, Isaka finds another person to inject the Gaia memory into, causing Terui to go after him again. Failing to beat him again causes him to go to Shroud for more power. She sees the fire in his eyes and tests him by making him destroy a shit ton of boulders in 10 seconds with a maximum drive, with the trial Gaia memory. As this happens, Isaka and Psycho plan on finally fighting Ryubei to take over the family and hope to get Wakana on their side. Then Isaka and Terui face off one last time, and with the new power of the trial Gaia memory, he finally kills Isaka, getting his revenge once and for all. A new client then shows up and actually recognizes Philip. During this time, Ryubei, after the events of Isaka and Psycho's betrayal, has Wakana lead the museum to his final plan, and during this time, he needs to meet up with someone from Foundation X. They are the people helping with Ryubei's project. As Terui fights off this weird chick that eats grasshoppers, Wakana and Philip talk to each other. He ends up finding out that she wants to leave the city with him to get away from her family. As Philip goes back to the agency, the dude who recognized him tells him about who runs the Gaia memory trade, and all the people involved with it, leaving Philip torn over what to do. As that grasshopper chick comes back, she ends up getting the dude who knows Philip to drop a bomb. He erased his memory of his family. Yeah, that was the thing mentioned before, but it wasn't that important to talk about until now. As Philip is distraught over this news, he decides to take up Wakana's offer and leave town with her. Before he can see her though, the dude who erased his memories tells him who his family is, and of course, because of how obvious this was to begin with, Philip is actually called Raito Sonozaki. Now with this knowledge, he is more determined to leave town as he knows who his family is. Before he reaches the station where she is, Ryubei shows up and forces her away to tell her the full plans of the museum. As she meets back up with Philip at the station, she attacks him but fails in taking him down, forcing her to retreat. As the gang help out a dude with making a movie who was using a Gaia memory, and they decide not to break it for some reason, we see Psycho, who was presumed dead, rescued by a man named Jun Kazu, a member of Foundation X who was tired of the Sonozaki family lowering the profits of their business, and the two team up with her sneaking into her office to take back the Nazca memory. Ryubei then gives Wakana a new Gaia driver that can help her become stronger and continue his plan, although the gene dopant needs to activate it. And that fucking dude who was making the movie has the gene memory, by the way. As Psycho attacks Shotaro and Ryu, the dude making the movie needs his Gaia memory. As he is able to get back to his Gaia memory, Wakana corners him and forces him to use the gene memory to get her to become stronger, causing her to tap into the powers of Extreme. As she overpowers Shotaro and Terui, they escape and have Philip try and find clues about her powers, only to find her in the Gaia library, the place Philip uses to find info. So now finding info just became a whole lot harder, until he realizes he can phase through her, although he himself can't touch any of the books in there anymore. After Shotaro is turned old by a Gaia memory, it's as weird as it sounds, Terui and Philip have to fight it out together. Shroud then tells them about how Double could be more powerful with Terui fighting alongside Philip instead of Shotaro. As Terui finds Psycho to ask about who Shroud really is, he learns that she was the one who provided Isaka with the weather memory, causing him to start losing it and go after her in a fit of rage. He corners her and learns that because of his resistance to Gaia memory effects, he should be the one to be Double, hence why she even gave him the Axel memory to begin with. As Wakana was following Ryu, she tells him who Shroud is. She is Fumine Sonozaki, her mother. As Ryu pieces it all together, he figures out why she is acting the way she is, thanks to her husband using Philip as a tool for his own benefit, since he was connected to the Earth. This is all to enact revenge on the family that betrayed her and her son. Then after an amazing movie, seriously, go and watch A to Z, The Gaia Memories of Fate, they take a job from a curator at museum, who is none the wiser to the plans by Ryubei, and uses this opportunity to investigate further into Ryubei to see what his plans are. They then corner Ryubei at museum while Philip reads a book in the Gaia library about himself. It told him that Ryubei had found a hole to the Earth's will itself, and that Philip fell into it and died. With Philip knowing everything about himself, Ryubei's plans are now falling into place. With Philip and the evil tale found by the curator, he can perform a Gaia impact, which was essentially to make every human become one with the Earth in the same way as Philip and Wakana, to essentially have them live forever. In the past, this event almost occurred when Philip got fished out of the hole, but thanks to Shotaro and Akiko's dad, he was rescued and the plan got halted. Ryubei then captured Philip as Shotaro is suffering from the effects of the Terror Gaia memory that Ryubei uses. As Philip calls Shotaro, he tells him he's about to die and become one with the Earth again and be absorbed into Wakana. As Philip is absorbed into her, Shotaro was able to find out thanks to Shroud that Philip's consciousness is able to transfer over to a Gaia memory, so they transform to get him out and fight against Ryubei. They fight against him and they end up winning, burning down the Sonozaki mansion and destroying the terror memory once and for all. However, that's not quite the end, as Kazu kidnaps Wakana and then cuts off their ties with Museum to fund a new project. And that's your meaningless tie-in to O's right there, because why not? Kazu then also decides to go through with the Gaia impact since he has Wakana in his grasp. As they corner Kazu, he reveals he has his own Gaia memory and Terui starts fighting him. Although before Shotaro can transform, Philip tells him that he needs to save the next transformation as the next one is going to kill Philip for good. As thanks to the quick save by Shotaro earlier, he's just data and is rapidly disintegrating. As Shotaro goes to find Shroud to find a way to save Philip, he learns that she was the one who sent Akiko's dad to save Philip. As Shotaro is able to accept the fact that Philip is going to disappear, they find Wakana in a facility and Kazu shows up to tell him his new version of the Gaia impact. Her data will be showered across the Earth, and anyone not compatible like Terui with Gaia memories will be wiped away. After Kazu kicks Terui and Shotaro's ass, Wakana wakes up and attempts to run away. Psycho also tries to help out, but is ultimately killed. Before the full plan is set into motion, Shotaro and Philip are able to destroy the device to make it all possible, and transform one last time to fight off against Kazu. As they beat him, Shotaro and Philip talk it out before he disappears. After this event, Shotaro finds a letter from Philip telling him to protect the city on his own, while also providing a driver to do so. While I feel the story is undercooked overall, the last part of the show hits hard and gives much needed development to Shotaro, turning him from a half-boiled detective to a hard-boiled detective. A poetic end to this story. Oh wait, there's one last episode. Wonder what it's about. Oh, good fucking god. All that I said in regards to Shotaro just got fucking annihilated with this one episode. So you get to see him as Kamen Rider Joker, which looks so fucking cool, by the way. As he fights off another Dopon and almost gets killed, suddenly Philip is back. The reason being, Wakana was able to sacrifice herself before this episode took place, as there was a year time skip, and be able to bring back Philip. Now, I get the logistics of all of this, you know? This seems possible. I really do think so. But this completely undermined Shotaro's character and turned the last few episodes about him needing to fight without Philip around on its head just for a happy ending. Jesus, why was this even a good idea to begin with? Shotaro had almost nothing to him. When they gave him a satisfying conclusion to his character, they just threw it all away on this final episode. The story was just mediocre overall with some good elements in there, but this moment ruined it for me. I'm sorry. Not only with a lot of the big mysteries in the show being solved by other people, which is, something that's really stupid for a detective story to be about, If there's a detective story, the detective should be able to figure out the big mysteries behind everything. Oh, but no. All the big mysteries about, Philip's past, who is selling all the Gaia memories. All of that is told to Shotaro and the gang. They never figure it out on their own. Same for that moment when Philip finds out everything about him. Wakana just gives him access to that book because she wants him to read it. This season, man, I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand why people like the season as much as they do, but whatever. Let's just move on to the conclusion. Ooh, boy, that was a doozy. Overall, this season has some good elements to it, and for those elements, I can see why this season is loved, but man, I have so many issues with it. To the lame cast, the two writers that are very bland, and enough said about that final episode, the better. I could see what they were attempting here, but it fell flat. Where this ranks up, though, is the question. It is ranked as my 9th favorite Kamen Rider season. So yeah, at this point in time, only 3 other seasons are worse, and to be honest, those shows are a significant downgrade compared to this one. So goes to show how bad this series can really get. As for the final review of this year, did I consider it better than Double, or is it among those 3 seasons mentioned before? You'll have to find out next Friday, so which season is it?
Frame! Freeze!
Kamen Rider Wizard is our final stop for this year's Kamen Rider April, so see you guys next Friday.